Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Heart of Christ Ministry podcast. I'm your host, Sean Robert Grant, Reverend Sean Robert Grant. Gotta put that Reverend in there. Anywho, hope this message finds you feeling your absolute best. I know I am doing just peachy today, and I'm happy and excited to be here with you. Happy to share some transformative divine knowledge and wisdom, and we are going to make the most of the time we have together. And our topic today is mental strength and toughness. But before I get into that, got a few lines of business to take care of, guys. If you have any prayer requests, any correspondence whatsoever, any feedback you want to give to the ministry, feel free to write to us at excuse me. Feel free to write to us at SeanG04@gmail.com. SeanG04@gmail.com. That's ShaunG04@gmail.com. And we will get back to you as soon as we can with any questions that you have, ensuring that you are on point with everything that you need, because we are here to serve and to help. That is what this divine idea is, first and foremost, and then next things next. If you guys have benefited from this ministry, from these podcasts, from the videos that we've done on YouTube and Facebook and things of the past, feel free to sow a seed today in the ministry. It's very easy. All you have to do is you can go to Venmo and look up at Heart of Christ Ministry, and you can sow a seed that way. You can do PayPal with the same email I just gave you, SeanG04@gmail.com. And then we can also do Apple Pay upon request, if that is your pleasure. Other than that, we thank you in advance for your seed, and we greatly appreciate your generosity in helping this ministry continue to reach the masses and keeping us on the air. So thank you very much for that. All right. So happy, as I stated before, to be here with you. And the reason being is I find with so much going on and in developing a ministry and having other things happening, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to certain things fall by the wayside, So for me, it's like, okay, writing articles for the ministry, doing video messages, speaking at different groups and stuff like that. And podcasting sort of slips under the rug. So I'm excited when I get the chance to come back and really just dive into topics here, because this is one of my favorite things to do, that is podcasting. And so with that being said, let's get into our message today. So mental strength and toughness, a spiritual ally we can't do without. And so I just got into this entire concept. It just kind of came into my consciousness one day as I was meditating. And sure enough, it came into my consciousness one day, and the next day I kind of went through some hardship. And but it was great because I had literally received what I call a divine download in how to be mentally tough when life kind of strikes at you, And so what wound up transpiring was I just kind of stuck my heels into the dirt and dug deeper in being in a space of understanding that mentally I am prepared, because I am prepared spiritually to face anything that life can bring. And the number one thing that I began to realize was that I knew that nothing in life is here to harm me, right? God did not create anything to harm us. There's nothing in life trying to get us. There's no people in life trying to get us. There is nothing that is coming against us to make our lives hell, so to speak. So when you understand that, and you realize that the issues that we have are self-created, it makes you dive deeper into yourself to figure out, okay, what could be perpetuating this situation? What could be enabling me to come against the same thing over and over and over, right? So I learned a lot throughout this situation, and there's a few things that I wanted to share with you that I feel like are so important. And so there's no particular order. I'm just going to say these as they come, because I believe in just allowing Spirit to flow through me. in the sense of just giving you whatever comes up that's going to help you in the highest regard. And so, it's just really diving into mental toughness, mental strength, and how to build it, and what you can do today if you're facing anything that might seem like an insurmountable, formidable task or formidable situation or circumstance. So the first thing I want to get into is just what I just spoke about a second ago, and that is the understanding that life is not out to get you. Okay? If you start with that first, not only is life not out to get you, life is here to love on you. Life is here to give you all the joy that you can desire, and it shows you in every single way. And the only time we miss it is when we decide to turn a blind eye to it, right? And so that may seem like you're crazy. What are you talking about? That makes no sense, but it's the actual truth. Life is not only here life is not only not against us, it's here to love on us, to help us to be our very best. And so you ask yourself, well, what am I missing? And that's the most important question. Why am I missing this dynamic truth, this maxim that has stood the test of time when we tap into life and just kind of allow life to do what it wants to do? And so, in looking at my life, a lot of times I was caught up in wanting to control situations, right? And if you ever realize, like, whenever you try to take physical control of something, what winds up happening? It's almost like trying to grab a fish out of water with oily hands. It's going to slide right through. And that's the same thing that happens with situations. There's no controlling, right? The only thing you can control is your mind, your mindset when you're facing something, right? And when you do that, that allows you to be strong, because then you can't be moved. But here's the thing. This stuff only happens. It only happens to us when we need to learn how to let go of control, right? So if I know inherently, and I have faith in the fact that life loves me, if I know inherently that life loves me, and life is taking care of me, and life wants to give to me in lavish abundance, what do I need to be afraid of, right? Or what do I need to control, right? Why do I need to force things to happen if that's the case? Well, it's either I don't believe it, or I just hadn't discovered it yet. And if you're in that second group, congratulations, because now you know that life is not out to get you, right? So I think for us as spiritual beings having a human experience, we've got to transcend the third dimensional ways of living, right? And so when it comes to 3D, and what I mean by that is basically the physical world, what you see a lot of is attachment. You see being locked into things and stuff and items that are, although energy, they represent fixed. So sometimes when your consciousness is not really at that point where it understands, they represent fixed, tangible objects that we can't lose, we can't replace, we can't discover how it's going to come back into our lives. And so that, in that third dimension, that puts us into a place where we can easily become susceptible to falling victim to having mental health issues and not having much mental strength or mental toughness. Why? Because the moment we lose something in that physical world, we all of a sudden lose our sense of self, right? And we think life is out to get us, right? So as I was saying, in the 3D world, you look at life on a surface level, and you don't understand, you don't realize that there's meaning behind it all, right? But when we go to a higher level, a spiritual level, to the fourth and the fifth dimensions and higher, what we begin to see, and more importantly begin to know, is that life is one big cosmic dance that moves perfectly with everything and everyone, right? So if something on the physical, on the 3D level seems lost, it's not really lost. It's just a matter of spirit doing what it needs to do, or the cosmos dancing to where it can make everything continue to be in perfect divine harmony, right? And so it's not always easy to get to that point to understand that, but when we do, it creates more peace for us. It creates less suffering, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that it's not hard, but it becomes a lot easier when we know there, not to sound cliche, there is a bigger, better, more grander divine reason for why things happen, right? And that creates mental toughness. That's one of the biggest things. Like, life is on your side, right? God is on your side. The divine is on your side. Everything that's happening is on your side. If you got in a car wreck today, as hard as it is to think so, that is life helping you. Why? Most times, spiritually, when we get into like accidents or something like that, it's life waking us up. It's saying we're walking through life asleep. We got to get up. And if we don't get up, we'll suffer the consequences of falling into something really dangerous. That's life protecting. It's life saying, look, I love you. I don't want anything to happen to you. I need you to get it together. I need you to come full circle, right? So when stuff like that happens, it's just life trying to get our attention, and life gets our attention because life is for us and life loves us, okay? So in that understanding, we can sort of move forward with the idea, if life loves us, what do we have on the inside? What's keeping our hearts beating? What's allowing our lungs to take in air and breathe? It's life, right? And life within us is the greatest power. God within us is the greatest power. So when you know God within you is the greatest power, there's nothing outside of you that you can't face and come to terms with and be victorious, right? So, and I say victorious, I say it's almost like a battle, but the battle is only within ourselves when we are unknowing or we're not conscious of the divinity that's there to help us to continually progress in every situation possible, right? It's a beautiful thing, no doubt about it, when you realize, and this is the second point, greater is the power in me than the power in the world, right? And it's basically saying greater is the life in me. Greater is the God in me than anything else, which means as long as you have life, as long as you have life within you, you know it's working for you, right? Life has this way of mirroring back to us exactly what we give it from an inside perspective. And so if we're not getting what we want, guess what? We need to figure out how to rectify that ship. You know, we need to how to right that ship. And honestly, when I dove into the idea of mental toughness, I was almost taken aback as far as like how easy it was, or how more importantly, not easy, but how simple it is to implement when we take the time to really be our best in everything. But more importantly, understand that like we have this benevolent, wonderful, amazing force at our backs, around us, on the side of us, in us, through us, really helping us to succeed, right? And the only way we can betray it is if we fixate our minds to think differently of that source, right? Of that spirit. And so once you know, I just want you to think about this for a second. Like, just imagine being able to wake up and say, life is for me. Even when you don't feel the best. And I woke up today, I didn't feel like my best, but I know life is for me, right? And in knowing that life is for me, I have nothing to worry about, right? I know that I'm always going to be provided for. I know that nothing is ever going to lack. I know that I'm always going to be successful in whatever I do. I know that I don't ever have to involve emotions when I'm dealing with anybody because life is for me, just like life is for them. Like, why complicate things and make it something out to be it isn't? And that's what we do when our consciousness is not in congruence with spirit, with God. We make problems out of stuff where there are no problems, right? I started working on this game, right? So where I would take situations and I would put one side on the ego and one side on the divinity side. And so I'd be like, ego, you're up. And the ego would say everything it needed to say about those situations, about that situation, right? Oh, either writing it down or just saying it out loud. And it would just be a complete shit show. And then I would go to the divine side, and the divine would say stuff that wasn't emotionally charged, that wasn't biased to anybody, but it was just full of love, easeful, easy to take in. And so I started doing this, and it really began to show me how, you know what, there really aren't any problems. We create the problems when we lose sight of the higher consciousness that lies within us. That's the number one thing you got to believe and have faith in when it comes to you having mental strength and mental toughness. So you think of COVID-19 and all the stuff that's happening with it and people suffering from mental health. What happens? They lose track of their minds. Like their minds are no longer strong because they're fixated on the things that just take them down a spiral and don't allow them to be the best that they can be from a mental standpoint, right? You know, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he was like, you know what? If we still happen to go on lockdown again, I'm going to be straight. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be good because I know what I believe mentally about myself and about life, and that's what's going to carry me through. And I thought that was just absolutely phenomenal. That's the idea you take, not just during a pandemic, but during life. Like, I know this is going to be a fantastic day. Why? Because life is here to help me. I have a mind that can set forth parameters that work in my favor. Am I going to use it, or am I going to let it go to waste, or am I going to let somebody else dictate how my life is supposed to be? Okay? So before we get too far off track, let's just get into once again, back about mental toughness and mental strength. And so, you know, when I think about some of the greatest times I've been able to display a strong sense of mental toughness and mental strength, I think back to Hurricane Katrina, you know, growing up in New Orleans and stuff like that. I think about, you know, the time where, you know, I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to quit school. Like school was extraordinarily hard for me, especially from a college standpoint, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was just doing anything and it just wasn't really clicking. So it was frustrating. But through those experiences, I was able to demonstrate a strong sense of mental health and mental strength and mental toughness. And so that is when I learned, by looking back at those situations, what I learned was this. I learned that you can look over the course of your life at a time when things were really bad and then look at how you got past it. And I tell you, there were thousands of situations like this because I had a tendency when I was younger to create all my own problems because all my emotions were jacked up, right? And until I was able to deal with my emotions, these problems continued to persist. And so, but I think about how, more importantly, who I needed to be in order to see the other side of these circumstances, and that showed me right then and there I had greater mental toughness than I could have ever imagined, and I'm sure you do as well. So the third aspect of this, you got to look at your own life and where have you been mentally tough? Because you take those situations, and when it seems like you get into a tough situation presently, you just think about how strong you were in the past and how much stronger you are right now and how you can move through everything. There's an affirmation that I use right now, and it's so dynamic because it basically it explains the truth of what I choose to live. And it says, I can face anything. I can face everything, anytime and anywhere. I can face anything. I can face everything at any time, anywhere, any place. You can add whatever you want to it. But what it does is it takes me to a level of consciousness, a level of a mental state that assures me that everything's going to work out, right? Everything's going to work out in my favor. And I believe that. And, you got to get into the habit. We have an episode, I want to say on the Money Cure, but it might actually be on Heart of Christ. You can look back in the log, but we talked about the power of self-talk, right? And how important it is to talk to yourself on a regular basis in order to raise up your thoughts, your vibration, the way you see life. Because what happens is, You can get down, you can get depressed, and you start to see life on a lower level, and that's when you start to have issues. But if you can see life from a higher vantage point, a higher vibration, a higher scope of vision, then you start to see things work out in your favor as it was intended to do, because that's what life is all about. Life is here to help you in every single possible way it can. And the resources, all of it has been given to you. You just got to use it, and use it in the right way. So think about that. Think about things in the past. Think about situations. Think about people you've dealt with, and think about how you've overcome them. And that in itself lies your mental toughness, in addition to the other two aspects that we talked about today on this episode. And with that being said, guys, that wraps up today's podcast with Heart of Christ Ministry. Thank you guys listening all around the world for tuning in. You know, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. You being able to benefit from me getting the privilege to use my gifts to help you out. So we're going to do this again one more time. If you have any questions, if you have any inquiries about anything or prayer requests or whatever it may be, write to us at SeanG04@gmail.com. SeanG04@gmail.com. And if you enjoyed this message and it has allowed you to, you know, develop insight on something that you've been working with in your life, sow a seed today, right? Sow a seed. And if you benefited from Heart of Christ in the past and you just feel the need to be generous today and you want to sow a seed, by all means do so. Venmo, go to Venmo.com. You can go to Heart of Christ Ministry. PayPal, same email as before, SeanG04@gmail.com. And then Apple Pay upon request. We can figure that out somehow or another. But thank you in advance for your generosity and your kindness in sowing a seed in this ministry. And that wraps up today's message. So with that being said, guys, have a wonderful day. Just remember, mentally tough. Stay mentally tough. Stay strong. Talk to yourself. Really pick yourself up no matter what it is, and you will be just fine. As a matter of fact, you'll be better than fine. You'll be great, and you will see your life come full circle in being one that's full of success and full of fulfillment. So with that being said, this is Reverend Sean Robert Grant signing off. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful one. We'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.